Beneath Paris, there is a part of the city that does not officially exist. Not the catacombs that tourists whisper about, not the tunnels mapped and studied, but something deeper, something sealed. In 1823, entire sections of underground passages were abruptly closed, erased from records, and never reopened again. Workers who entered those depths left behind tools, notes, and in some cases, never returned at all. And what they found down there was never meant to be seen. The year is 1823. Paris is restless, still carrying the echoes of revolution, rebuilding itself above ground while something far older lies beneath. Streets are being expanded, foundations reinforced, and beneath it all, a silent network of tunnels stretches endlessly in the dark. Officially, these are limestone quarries, carved over centuries to build the city above. But even then, there are reports, quiet ones, dismissed ones, that not all tunnels were man-made, and not all passages were known. Paris, at the time, feels slightly off. Construction workers speak of drafts that come from nowhere, of distant sounds that do not echo correctly, of corridors that appear on no map. Engineers begin documenting sections of the underground, trying to impose order on something that seems to resist being understood. And yet, the deeper they go, the more the geometry begins to change. Corridors no longer follow the logic of quarry excavation. Walls become smoother, almost too precise. Some chambers appear not carved, but constructed. And in certain areas, markings begin to appear, symbols that do not match any known language used in France at the time. But these details never make it into official reports. Not fully. Because in 1823, something happens that changes everything. It begins with a routine survey. A group of inspectors is sent into a lesser-known section beneath the southern part of the city. Their task is simple: map unstable tunnels and reinforce them before collapse. But within hours, their path leads them somewhere unexpected. A passage appears that does not belong. It is narrower than the quarry tunnels, perfectly straight, with walls that feel finished, not rough, not carved, but smoothed with an unnatural precision. The air inside is colder, still, as if untouched for an impossible amount of time. The workers hesitate, but curiosity pulls them forward. The further they walk, the more the environment changes. The ceiling height becomes uniform, the floor level perfectly even, as though designed rather than dug. And then they reach the first chamber. It is vast, too vast. The walls curve slightly, forming a shape unlike any quarry room. There are no tool marks, no signs of excavation, and at the center, partially buried under layers of dust and debris, stands something that no one can explain. Not machinery, not sculpture, something in between. Geometric, symmetrical, and made of a material that does not match the limestone surrounding it. One of the workers writes in his notes that the object feels wrong, that standing near it causes a strange pressure in the chest, like the air itself has weight. Another describes a faint humming sound, barely audible, but constant. These notes would later be collected, and then disappear. Within days, more teams are sent down, not to explore, but to contain. Entire sections of tunnels are marked for closure. Maps are redrawn. Entrances are sealed with stone, reinforced beyond what would be necessary for simple structural safety. But something doesn't add up. Because the areas being sealed are not random, they form a pattern, a network. As if the authorities are not just closing tunnels, but isolating something specific. Workers begin to talk, quietly. They speak of additional chambers, deeper still, where the architecture becomes even more unnatural. Straight lines where there should be irregularity, angles too precise for hand tools of the time. Some claim they saw doorways, actual doorways cut into the stone, leading further down. Others describe finding corridors that seem to loop back on themselves, but not in a normal way. Distances don't match. Turns don't align. One man reportedly walked in a straight line for what felt like minutes, only to emerge near the exact point he started, without turning once. And then there are the disappearances. Not many, just enough to be unsettling. A pair of workers assigned to reinforce a sealed entrance fail to return. Their tools are found neatly placed near the wall. No signs of struggle, no collapsed tunnel, just absence. Another report mentions a lantern found still burning, deep within a restricted section, long after its owner was declared missing, but the flame did not flicker. It stood still, as if unaffected by air. By the end of that year, access to entire regions beneath Paris is permanently restricted. Not temporarily, permanently. No official explanation is given. Some believe it was simply structural instability, that the tunnels were at risk of collapse, and authorities chose caution over curiosity. It is the most reasonable explanation, the one that fits within the boundaries of logic. Others suggest something else, that these chambers were remnants of an older Paris, a forgotten layer of the city built long before recorded history, buried and rediscovered by accident. A hidden civilization beneath the one we know. But there is another possibility, one that is never written down, but continues to echo in fragmented accounts. That what was found beneath Paris was not abandoned, but sealed. Not because it was fragile, but because it was active, because the object in that chamber, the one described as neither machine nor sculpture, was not just sitting there, it was doing something, quietly, constantly. And whatever it was doing, it was not meant to be interrupted. Some accounts hint at subtle effects experienced by those who spent too long underground. Disorientation, loss of time. The feeling that the tunnels were shifting, not physically, but perceptually, as if the space itself refused to remain fixed. And if that were true, sealing it off would not just be a precaution, it would be a necessity. Today, much of what lies beneath Paris